Hi, my name is Dr. Jagdish Chaturvedi. I am the founder and CEO of HiiiH Innovations Private Limited. I've been inventing medical devices for the last 10 years. I have developed or been involved in the development of about 18 medical devices. But only about 7 have been commercially launched. Some are successful. There have been licensing exits. There have been products that have been taken all the way to the market helping patients. But 11 of my technologies failed. And one of the common reasons why they failed is because of poor team dynamics, which becomes very crucial for healthcare innovations because for developing a medical technology, it takes an average 2 to 8 years, depending upon the complexity of the technology that you're developing. And many times teams misinterpret the time, effort, and resources that are going to be required for the development of the technology. Sometimes there are hurdles, unexpected information that comes up during the development or, when you interact with stakeholders. And many times teams disintegrate. Often there's no clarity of who's playing what role for what exchange of equity, cost, consulting. Many things are just left to happen in the interest of innovations. And that's basically a sign of a nascent ecosystem that we have in India for healthcare innovations. But unfortunately, we have a lot of healthcare challenges. We need much more number of healthcare startup companies to come in and address these problems. But the reality is very different. We have very few healthcare technology companies, and I would imagine there must be just a few thousand. I don't think even more than 5,000 healthcare technology companies. And if you look at medical device companies, there are probably few hundreds. We have a database of about 200 odd startup companies with us. And when we looked into them in terms of who the founders are and what their involvement is, we found out that not even about 20 or 22 of them, I think, have doctors involved in the capacity of co-founder or innovator or clinical directors. Very, very few. In healthcare companies, in medical technology companies, the medical element of a doctor is not involved in the capacity that they're supposed to be involved. And that is quite a sad state of affair. And the reason why that happens is because doctors are so busy in their own clinical schedule and their own routine that even though they do invent, if you look at the publications of novel technologies, novel approaches that doctors, surgeons, and all of them use to develop solutions, there are a lot of doctors who invent, innovate, improve processes, and that's how medical research has been evolving. But very few are able to bring it in that structure of scale where larger people can be benefited through an entity like a company or something like that. Because they don't know, A, how to invent, and B, they don't have the team. Normally they do it themselves. Sometimes some surgeons just work with an individual manufacturer. They don't really know how to showcase the product, package, regulatory trials, all of that, and take it to forward. It's a whole different ball game. So we see very few doctors who are involved in development of startup companies. But we see a lot of doctors who innovate and improve, but do it only in their silos. And I think this is a very important gap to address in our healthcare ecosystem today. Because out of the 22 odd healthcare companies that have doctor co-founders, I am part of 7 of them, right? And there are very few doctors who understand how to invent medical devices. I got trained at Stanford University through a government program called Stanford India Biodesign, which trained people like me on how to invent. And then we learned the whole process of how to work with engineers, designers, scientists, how to help identify a need, filter it, take it all the way. Not many people know that. And what happened during the course of my development of devices is that my mentor, Dr. Ravi Nair, he advised that I should write a book that talks about the failures and challenges while inventing technologies. And I took his advice and wrote this book called Inventing Medical Devices, A Perspective from India. Happens to be the first Indian medtech book. Was also a bestseller for a while on Amazon. That talks about 10 failures while developing technologies and mistakes that we made so that people learn about what are the common mistakes and how they can be overcome. What started happening after that book got a little popular is a lot of doctors started reaching out to me asking how do they find an engineer or a designer to work with. And at the same time, I started finding a lot of interns, a lot of engineers, designers who were saying, what are the clinical challenges I can work with? Initially, it used to be just few requests a month, and soon it became hundreds of requests. And that's where I thought that I need to do something to bridge this ecosystem. Because there is a lot of interest to solve healthcare challenges in India. They just don't get together at the right time, right place, and the right kind of association. And that's what HiiiH Innovations, this app called HiiiH, this is what it does. It allows a doctor to find an engineer, a designer, or a scientist, or a lawyer, or a technical person, or maybe a regulatory expert or a consultant, someone who can help work with them as a team and take their idea to reality. And what we do is we create a platform in a way that they understand the expectations beforehand. A doctor knows that if you're looking for a full-time engineer, you'll know when you're looking at the profile whether this person wants to be working full-time, do they want a salary, do they want a contract payment, or do they want equity and stake. These are the things that I realize that people don't discuss early on because nobody wants to spoil the spirit of innovation with commercial discussions. But that's a big mistake because later on, these are the things that cause disintegration and overall approach of what you are trying to do doesn't happen. So I believe that this discussion of alignment of expectation of time, returns have to be discussed early, and it's a very tricky thing to discuss. Our app allows you to fill your expectations of how long you want to work and how much you want. Do you want equity? Do you want money? Do you want contract beforehand? And geolocation so that you can find the right people beforehand to interact. And after that, obviously, it's about you and your interpersonal skills on how you can get ahead. But at least we're trying to increase the odds. It's a free application available on iOS and Play Store that allows people to have this network, chat, connect with people, resources, vendors, all the way from anyone who can help you with the idea to manufacturing, scale, investment, everything. But how do we generate income? India lacks India-specific healthcare innovation consulting portal. And what we do is we provide that as services. The app has inbuilt services where anybody from how to identify a need, hospital access to understand needs, to get focus group discussion, validations, clinical trial, paper writing, product development, commercialization, marketing, sales. We have the contacts to create this kind of a service that we can provide to Indian startups at Indian startup costs that people can buy while being on the app through the services. We also become probably a very important asset when a global company wants to come into India. We have ground experience of 10 years. We have worked with hundreds of hospitals. We have worked with hundreds of vendors in every different stage of product development. We've seen successes, we've seen failures. We have the bandwidth and the ability and the knowledge and on-the-ground experience to help international companies evaluate Indian markets, bring their technologies over here, form companies, fund Indian startups, VCs, all of that. And I think this is going to be a very, very important online portal for Indian healthcare innovations. And we need your support in being a part of this by funding us, by providing us your contacts, your networks, and supporting us in making this happen. This is a doctor-driven effort because I, as a doctor, understand the lack, what happens when there is a lack of medical fraternity in healthcare startups. And I'm not saying that, startups don't have advisors or they don't go to doctors for feedback. They do, but they go at a very late stage. They go with a product or a prototype and ask for user feedback. But the doctor at that point of time cannot really say that this is not useful, do something from scratch. I mean, nobody's going to really say that because they're going to be polite. So it doesn't allow the doctor the chance to help identify and guide the team for the right need and the right problem. And that's why you may probably just end up seeing a lot of companies making portable ECG, wireless ECG machines, or working on technologies that are not very core clinically solving issues. And that's why I think HiiiH will play a very important role in future. It is going to be a database exclusively for healthcare innovations. You might think that, LinkedIn is there, Facebook is there. What is this? What's so special about it? What's new about it? Well, what's new and special about it is having healthcare innovation interested people under one umbrella, away from the noise of the millions and billions of population, where it'll be very hard to even identify whom you should work with, whom you shouldn't. And very core niche for healthcare innovations in India, which is a big and most important thing to address right now in our country. So I hope this gives you some clarity, but do reach out to me if you have any questions. My number is 96509-28582. My website is www.jagdishchaturvedi.com, and my email address is jagdish@hiih.in, HiiH.in. I'll be happy to answer your questions and hope you can help us in future. Thank you.